how do we kind of make sure that those smaller artists continue to live and exist and thrive in this city?
This is built to be a hub of arts and culture throughout the city of Indianapolis.
Yeah, it doesn't just have to be live music, and I think that's really exciting to think about the opportunities.
Like, how do you just as much book someone as like pitch them to come and play at the Vogue? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Big news from my friends over at Hope Plumbing. Now Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. You heard that right. They are now your one-stop shop for home services, offering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. New name, added services, but same trustworthy, loyal company. They treat your home like their very own, and now that includes HVAC as well. Book your next home services appointment with Hope and mention Get Indiana, and Hope will give you a free membership for a year. A membership includes important services like whole home plumbing inspection, a free mainline drain snaking, 2 seasonal HVAC inspections, and so much more. That's a deal you can't miss out on. Call Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling and start saving today. Now let's get back into the show. My guest today is Jenny Boyts, the CEO of 45. Now 45 is one of the largest independent concert promoters in the entire state. They are the company behind the historic Vogue Theater, Rock the Ruins at Holliday Park, and have a new initiative coming up this summer that you're going to want to hear about. Today we're going to be talking about the work that they're doing to elevate the music scene within the Hoosier State, doing a venue breakdown all around the state of Indiana, talking about some of our favorite places and a few venues that need to be on your bucket list, whether it's this summer or going forward. And we're going to round it out by talking through the other ways that Jenny is plugging into her Indiana community. Welcome to Get In.
Glad to be here.
I'm super pumped for this one. So the Vogue Theater, I don't want to totally give away our studio location, but it's right in the neighborhood,
Close
right?
proximity.
So very, very close proximity. And I've been there for a ton of really fun events and concerts and shows. I mean, from my time at Powder Keg, we hosted events there to... Oh my gosh, I saw Jesse McCartney on his
Sell out.
Yes.
Everybody has a Vogue story.
Everyone, right? What is it? Rod Tough Curls on New Year's
friends
Eve.
Of ours, yes.
Spectacular time.
Yes.
So obviously, I mean, we know a lot of people know the Vogue Theater, but I would say not as many people know the work that goes in behind that, right?
Yeah.
They know that the brand that is the Vogue Theater, but you see a lot, and I see it coming up. And now that I know who you guys are and all those things, I see 45 Presents on a ton of stuff. Like I Made Rock and Roll, right?
That's right.
Rock the Ruins, and all the shows that are happening at the Vogue. So give us a little bit of a overview of what 45 is.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's good to hear you're seeing us everywhere. That's kind of the goal, and we're in this growth phase that I think people are really receiving well and excited about. So happy to be here talking about it for sure. So the ownership group that bought the Vogue bought it in 2019, which was a hell of a time to buy a live music venue.
The perfect time to have a venue.
And one that was, obviously came with quite a bit of responsibility. Historic kind of legends have played on that stage, and our responsibility we took really seriously from the beginning. So 2019, probably only 6 months of live music, wanting to bring back the theater as a true live music venue.
What was it before 2019?
So it was live music, but they started to kind of really sprinkle in quite a few dance nights, and we still do that quite a bit. But really this kind of concerted effort to say, like, the majority of shows we want to put on that stage are going to be live music again.
What's a dance show?
Yeah, so let's see. One that does so well all the time is a Taylor Swift dance night.
Oh, like
so
the
kind
DJ
of an
comes in?
Theme. Yeah, they come to artist theme nights where if you just want to come and hang out with your friends, bring your bachelorette party, you just want to dance all night. You don't really need a live band playing. You don't care about who's actually on stage. You're just there with your friends.
Wait, so
we do a lot of those.
Is it live music or is it DJ?
It's a DJ.
DJ.
Yeah.
Is that like, didn't you guys do like Shrek Night or something
We do
too?
Shrek Night. Shrek Night kills it. What's the other one the other day that was, we do K-pop. We've kind of started to introduce some new kind of, themes that I think people are really receiving. But mostly that's just how you go with your friends and be a little weird, right? You don't really care. It's not an artist you're traveling to come see. I think the ownership group before did a really great job and has kind of nurtured that. In 2019, these guys thought, let's keep that alive. Let's bring live music back to Broad Ripple. Let's continue to do this. COVID hits. And kind of after a year or so, kind of saying, how do we make sure that not only are we keeping people employed, our staff employed, but we're also making sure that we're using live music in the ways that we still fundamentally believe live music can be used, which is to bring people together, to kind of create joy, build community, and also kind of be an economic catalyst for not only people that we employ, but the folks around, artists, all of everybody that's kind of involved there. So it's actually how Rock the Ruins started. started. So we kind of thought about, hey, we aren't back in person indoors yet. Where do we go? How do we do this? And so that's really where kind of some connections and conversations with Indy Parks, and then ultimately Holliday Park kind of came to be. The first year of Rock the Ruins, you were sitting in a kind of painted box with your friends for a show. It was really social distanced, was the first year. Really kind of saying, how do we keep, again, live music alive, artists employed, our own employees, making money. And so that's how Rock the Ruins started. I think since then, there's kind of this itch of like, hey, there's a need and there's a desire for outdoor events, outdoor live music. And that's really where we kind of stepped in and said, how do we keep growing that and making sure that this not only is a brand that people can respect and we're bringing really good talent, but we're also kind of leveraging partnerships like Indy Parks, making sure that people have access to this in a way that, if you don't want to drive all the way up north for an outdoor show, how do you do that in a really beautiful venue? And one that I, quite frankly, am really proud of. Living in Indianapolis, it's a beautiful park, Holliday Park, and quite frankly, who doesn't want to see a concert surrounded in the woods on an Indiana summer night? So, and Rock the Ruins just really grew from there, and we're continuing to grow and think about outdoor role.
What season is this for Rock the Ruins?
So this is 5. This is the 5th year.
I will say for anyone, like I went to my first, which is embarrassing to say, but I went to my first Rock the Ruins show last year.
Okay, who'd you see?
Well, originally I was going to see Ellie.
Elle King.
Elle King,
yes.
But it got rained out, and it was like crazy. It was like, okay, we
Are
go.
we doing it? Are we not doing it? Yep, that's right. Yeah.
So then I went the next week to Hippocampus.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't know any of their songs.
Yep.
I listened to them that week, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go back and do this, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it was. You're in. The heart of Holliday Park.
Yes.
You're outside.
Yes.
Beautiful evening.
Yes.
Like it was so cool.
Yeah.
And it could be anyone. It could have been jazz, rap, anything. I could have like all the spectrum. You're having a great time.
Yeah. It's interesting you said it, because what's really great about Holliday Park too, or at least Rock the Ruins as a brand, is it's allowed us to bring in a diverse group of genres too. So you just mentioned a country artist on one night, and then a really young kind of like funk indie pop group that the next week. And that's the beauty of Rock the Ruins, right? Is we're able to kind of plug and play and put together a really cool lineup that we hope spans a lot of genres and a lot of age groups and a lot of diverse.
If I had to put in my 2 cents, like not that Elle King is not a real country artist, like she's great. It's very like pop country. But if we brought some like rising star country artists, I would pack the house.
Yeah, last season we had Charlie Crockett sold out, and just it was such a good vibe, such a good show, beautiful night. Yeah, and so we're trying to continue to think about what are the genres that people are really excited about, and country wins every time, indoors and outdoors, quite
country
frankly.
rocks.
Yeah.
It's like, it's never been cooler to be country than it is right now. Like Post Malone drops
It's true.
Beyonce drops her country album.
Give Beyonce her credit. I think she's more than what we probably are giving credit to. And as a Beyonce fan, I would say that she has a huge kind of role to play there. But yeah, everybody, especially here in Indiana, people are excited. It's old school. It's outlaw country. People do still like pop country. Even our indoor space, we just had a really young artist come through Turntable, which is our newest indoor venue, and brought a group of young people and fans that I've never seen in our venue before. Cowboy hats everywhere. And
Who was it?
People were really, really excited about it. His name was Kenny Fiedler. So a young guy who's doing country.
It was recently?
Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago. And he, again, I think what we want to do at 45, and we continue to do it, I think Rock the Ruins is a venue and a vehicle to do that. But we've tried to pop up other spaces as to kind of say, like, who do people in the city want to hear? Who are they kind of listening to? And how do we make sure that those artists, have a stage to play on so that they're able to kind of come and build their fan base in that way in our venues too.
Oh, it's so, one that's rising in country stardom that actually might be perfect for Rock the Ruins at some point. We might be outgrowing it soon. Is Steven Wilson Jr.?
We had Steven Wilson Jr.
No way. When?
It was interesting. We had him probably 3 or 4 months ago. He sold out.
Was it in the Vogue?
He was in the Vogue.
Oh, okay.
He sold out very, very quickly. It was interesting. It was fun to watch because I think it was his first tour that he had kind of, had either switched or transitioned management. And so that, his touring manager all of a sudden was, Chris Stapleton's former touring manager, right? This was his first one. The next week, he pulled up in a 15-passenger van, and they were like, oh, he gets his tour bus tomorrow. So watching him turn from kind of these little theaters to now his entire tour is selling out. He continues to extend it. He's from here. I mean, he was a hometown, kind of Indiana guy, and he stuck around afterwards and talked to all of his friends, I imagine, and his family that were there. And again, to me, it was a perfect example of like, there's legends that you don't know you're watching on the Vogue stage, quite frankly, that you're going to hear about and see about years to come and be like, I saw them in this, teeny little theater, almost 100-year-old theater in Broad Ripple.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Okay, I'm impressed.
Show.
I mean,
yeah.
see, I guess I don't like this is a problem, but like go to shows in the winter that much.
Listen,
it's like as soon as the spring turns, so I need to keep it better. But like that
fair.
one,
Yeah.
they're coming down and playing Jackson County Watermelon Festival in Brownstown,
Stephen Wilson Jr. is.
Stephen Wilson Jr. and someone else, like two huge names coming to the Watermelon Festival in Jackson County.
Yeah. Well, what I also found endearing, and I hope most artists feel at the Vogue or at any 45 venue, is that like you're welcome. There's a familial feel to it, because quite frankly, he was so proud to be there. I mean, of course, like kind of his hometown, he had his friends and his family there, but there was also just this like, pride that I felt really like, I felt excited about, that he was just there being able to play and quite frankly in front of a sold out crowd in front of his friends and family. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
And he is, everything I keep seeing from him is just the most authentic dude.
Oh yeah.
Was a laboratory chemist or something, a scientist,
Yeah,
and then like walked into his boss's office. I listened to the whole story. I walked into his boss's office and was just like talking about, he could have like advanced up and was like, what are you passionate about? Like all you want to do is write music. Like you should just go do it.
Yeah.
And he did it.
He did it. I mean, his buddy was his tour manager for a while. I kind of talked with him for a little bit before the show, and he was like, he just keeps writing good music. Like we don't know how to handle it. He's just writing, and it's all so good.
That like raw, raspy, gritty voice too.
Good.
So the Rock the Rind is what they're calling it down in Brownstown.
Rind, I get it.
Yeah, right. And it's so Thursday night. Tracy Byrd, Deanna Carter,
that's so cool.
right?
Some legends.
Justin Moore, on Friday night, and then Stephen Wilson Jr. and Southall on Saturday night.
So cool.
In Jackson County, like
and
that's
also Tracy Byrd. You're on the lineup with Tracy Byrd and Deanna Carter. You've made it.
You're doing all right there.
It's pretty cool.
So what's been like the biggest show that you guys have done at Rock the Ruins?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Charlie Crockett earlier. Again, I think we attempt to create a lineup that kind of meets age, spans age groups, spans racial diversity, gender diversity, but again, country sells. So Charlie Crockett sold last year. It was a sellout show. It was a fantastic show. He put on a great show. We had Orville Peck last year, another kind of country artist who I think also is a niche, and brought some great kind of support lineup for him. So both of those.
Was Mountjoy there 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
I feel like I remember people like couldn't get tickets and were outside the park just listening.
Exactly right. Yeah. I mean, Mountjoy has grown. I mean, even since they started. I think what's true, what 45 is trying to do is to kind of create a portfolio of venues so that you can grow with an artist. So let's use Stephen Wilson as a perfect example of, all of a sudden he's selling out. The Vogue is 950 people. He's selling out 950. We at 45 want to be able to say, hey, we think we have another venue for you to come sell out. So you want to be able to stay with an agent and an artist, be able to build and see them through their career. So I think Mountjoy is a perfect example of, we kind of got to know them really early. We've kind of tried to continue to follow them along and plug them in places and venues that we have. But that's the goal, right? Is for us to be able to follow artists along in their artistic journey. And quite frankly, the audience is going to want to follow them along too, and familiar spaces.
Whose like job is it to uncover the rising artist?
Yeah, we have a talent buying team that is spans both across age groups, but quite frankly, who's crushing it right now is a young guy, and he's probably 8 months in, and he keeps booking these. Our turntable is our smallest venue, so you really, again, you're looking for these like, who's going to sell 200 tickets that I think is going to be able to grow and play at the Vogue and hopefully play at Rock the Ruins and play at bigger venues. And I mean, he just keeps crushing.
Who's this guy?
Hitting sellouts at turntable. His name's Ben King. He's one of our full-time staff members.
Ben.
Yeah.
So Ben's got an ear for rising stars.
I mean, we say it all the time. And even his kind of openers, I feel really proud of the ways that he's kind of identifying both local talent, which quite frankly, like, not a lot of promoters do, or at least we don't find a lot of space for. But when there's a space for a local talent, he finds somebody, he's got an ear on it, and he's ready to go. And I think that's really, at the end of the day, it's kind of who you put on a stage, and then my job is like, what stage are we putting them on? And I kind of think that's a good balance that we found in that way.
That's
so
such a fun.
Yeah.
That's such a fun job.
Yeah,
too. Like. What do you go to school? Like, how do you end up getting in that gig?
Yeah. So I think Ben found his way. He was kind of a part of a tour and was touring with the group for a little while. He, grew up in the music scene, I would say, in his 20s in Denver, Colorado, so was a part of some of the smaller rooms that were actually feeding into Red Rocks. So he got to see not only the business of how that works, also the economics of how that works, but also just the ways in which, you're uncovering hundreds of talent to be able to get to the, 40 or 50 shows that end up at Red Rocks. And so hundreds and hundreds of bands. And I think he's just probably learned along the way. There's a money formula to it, but there's also at the end of the day, like, how do you pick the quality artists that we think are going to continue to sell tickets?
Yeah, and like it's never been easier to, build stardom and like get noticed.
Yeah.
But it's also never been as saturated.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
like
real.
everyone's a TikTok country star, right?
It's real. Well, you think about, like, even we just talked about Steven Wilson Jr. You think about him, I think, your favorite artist didn't start at Ruhoff. Nowadays, some did, right? Like, there are some folks that, that get famous on TikTok and are selling out stadiums. You think about Zach Bryan, you think about all kinds of folks. I think Steven Wilson's a good example. Right before, I think either we went on sale or in the middle of on sale, he went viral on TikTok for one of his covers, and I'm not going to remember the name right now, but he went viral, and all of a sudden, that soul showed out like that. And then again, all of a sudden, you're watching his tour both internationally and nationally just sell out show after show.
Is it his Stand By Me cover?
Stand By Me cover.
It's phenomenal.
It just hurts. It's almost like a deep cut, but you're like, I love it, but I also need to go cry for a minute.
He did another acoustic set with Hardy.
Yes.
And put that on YouTube. Yes. And it's like, it's so good. It's so good. It does. It hurts.
It hurts a little bit. So yeah, I think the reality is, that is true, but it's not true for every artist. You're not going to find TikTok stardom. You're not going to go viral. You're not going to start selling out stadium shows. And so at 45 anyway, we are trying to say, you can also start at a really small stage and grow your way up the way that kind of you used to have to do it, right? You used to kind of have to go and play in front of 6 people before you played in front of a stadium full of fans.
I think one of my good friends is playing a show at Turntable in August.
Okay.
His name it's Ian Illig.
Okay.
The band is Gregorian.
Yes. Okay.
And I think he's looking for sponsors right now, and I think it's pretty confirmed that Get Indiana is going to be a partner there, and we're going to come in and do a bunch of stuff.
I love it. It was such a fun project. Turntable was the old Crackers Comedy Club, for folks that aren't familiar with it. Again, a legend in the Broad Ripple scene. Huge comedians kind of came through that club. Everybody, we joke often, people have a Vogue story. They often also have a Crackers Comedy Club story. You saw George Lopez or some of the, Sinbad or, Queen Latifah play on that stage, like kind of perform that stage, teeny tiny little space. But when we walked it for the first time, or at least when I started at 45, I kind of said, like, why is this not a venue? Like, we own this room, we own this space, like, we need to turn this into a venue. And it kind of became this organic creative project between a few folks on my team. And it's now, has this kind of a Japanese listening room, like vinyl listening room vibe. We have a beautiful record wall that is, really kind of spotlights in a really beautiful way, kind of so many of the artists that we're following and keeping up with. And then you go to the showroom, and again, it's just this intimate. You can be right up at the stage. You could be seated if you'd like. But it's this space that I think doesn't exist here in Broad Ripple, and quite frankly, that kind of 200 to 400 cap room. You don't have many options in the city to kind of see those artists who are just selling that many tickets and aren't kind of at the big stadiums or in the big spaces.
I've been in there once.
Okay.
I think Powder Keg had an event there
not
too long ago. So I was up there. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Very unique. I think that there are other, those 200 to 4. What's the capacity there?
It's 200 seated, and we can go up to 400 GA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can bring, 200 people in there and it doesn't feel empty.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, this is, so even if you're a growing artist, I think at the last show, Ian played the hi-fi, and there was like 200 and some change people there. And, that's a pretty like traditional style venue. So you got to get people moving towards the front a little bit there. Yeah. But in Turntable, I feel like it is like broken up a little bit there. And it's just such an interesting space that 200 is going to feel really full there.
We didn't really structurally change much in the room. So if you walked in, you'd still see the risers where they kind of had tables before for comedy shows. We wanted to keep that. And that is still true and real for kind of folks who want a premium experience, a table and a chair to sit at. But what's nice about that is then you can kind of close those down and you have just the dance floor, just the showroom floor that, again, even with 150 people, which is a pretty small crowd for that kind of size, but it still feels full and it still feels like you're more important for us is that the artist is having just as great of experience as the guests and the ticket buyers. Because again, we want them to come back. We want them to kind of continue to feel like, hey, you're at the right spot in your career, and hopefully you're with the right promoter like us. So it feels full. It's a great room. Yeah, so far people have really enjoyed it and are receiving it really well.
And what like stands out for you all? Like, how do you just as much book someone as like pitch them to come and play at the Vogue or pitch them to play at Turntable?
Yeah, there's a lot of artists right now who want to play for independent promoters, right? Like I think there's a lot of artists who want to be and have access to and be a little closer to their fans.
When you say independent promoters, is that like a competitor? Like, so you guys are kind of like a competitor, like Live Nation, that type of thing?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
okay. Wait. This is interesting.
It is. So locally owned independent promoters. The two here in Indianapolis, of course, are at 45 at MOKB, good friends of ours. And then, you have kind of the national or global kind of promoters like Live Nation, like AEG, some of those folks who are doing and have massive kind of corporations and massive machines that are doing really, really great, providing really great entertainment and shows for folks, quite frankly, around the globe. What we've said is, hey, we're independently owned. We don't, we're locally owned. We want to make sure that we're kind of investing in artists and in the ways that we do. We don't have a model where we're going to go scale to and buy stadiums, but we, how do we kind of make sure that those smaller venues and smaller artists kind of continue to live and exist and thrive in this city? And so there's a lot of artists who want to play for independent promoters, and especially when they're early in their career.
And it might not be like, going and getting the biggest amphitheaters in the state, but being creative and creating these like from nothing.
Yes.
Like, that's what's so cool. And if I know anything about like the original ownership group of the Vogue, right? Like creating something from nothing is kind of their specialty.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right.
So as we talk through, like you guys have done Rock the Ruins, but then there's this big announcement coming up for what's going to happen in Broad Ripple Park.
Yeah.
That you guys are creating again, something from nothing.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. I think the theme for us was not just creating something from nothing, but also creating something that I think people want, especially in the city of Indianapolis, right? Like I am not from here originally, but this is home. I love this city. I am so committed to making sure that people who are here have, at least the ways that I can, have a great quality of life.
Where are you from?
Welcome. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, originally.
Oh,
yeah.
How long have you been in Indy?
So I went to college here years ago, and did a short stint in grad school in Denver, Colorado, and Chicago, and then got back here in about 5 years. So total about 15 years I've been here. Yeah. So it's home now, though, right? Like you look up all of a sudden and you have a dog and a house, and this is home. And quite frankly, this is the city that I love, and there's no plans to kind of change or move. Again, what that means though is then how am I, in the ways that I can, continue to make sure that we're not passed over by big bands or big tours. And because quite frankly, I think this city is willing to buy tickets. I think they're ready for live entertainment in ways that I think a lot of other cities, at least in the Midwest or kind of in these spaces, are struggling. And I believe that Indianapolis is. So what we're trying to do is kind of say, not only is this a demonstration of our partnership with Indy Parks, but how are we continuing to help them meet their mission of there's multiple uses of parks, right? How are we using this park and these beautiful spaces in ways just beyond kind of leisure, if you will. And also, I think there's a world where, there's Broad Ripple used to be kind of the music hub, the live music hub. This was kind of the cornerstone. So many spaces like the patio, like Monkey's Tail, again, like the Vogue has just been here for so long that how do we bring live music back? And I think there's a concerted effort to do that.
What's the patio?
The patio was a legendary music venue that was actually where what now is 317 Barbecue. So it also was one that had tons of legends that came through and has been, historic in the Broad Ripple space. Look it up. It's an amazing
the patio
space.
in Broad Ripple. We'll have to check it out.
Was around just as long. And so how are we actually kind of bringing back some of that live music? And quite frankly, again, where we found our niche and we found artists that want to play and guests that want to come is in the outside space, outdoor space. And so Broad Ripple Park in their master plan, there is a event venue. And so we're just testing it out and seeing what that looks like.
As a local resident, that's very good for the future of my neighborhood.
You feel good about that?
Oh,
okay.
We like that. We like a venue in the backyard.
We committed to Indy Parks is to at least to test it and try it, and more specifically to kind of get neighborhood feedback. So if they choose to kind of continue down that path of what does it look like to be able to have live music there that they know, and we've been able to kind of help them in their community engagement.
If you need someone to go out and knock doors in the neighborhood to get people promoted, I am pumped about this.
We absolutely do.
So who's coming? What can we expect? What is that going to look like?
Yeah, so at Rock the Ruins right now we have 6 shows announced that we're really excited about. So the Wallflowers, kind of a throwback for folks that may remember that. I'm really excited about St. Paul and the Broken Bones that's happening in July. He is another one that I think has kind of caught wind. I think he's been around for a long time, just has such a unique voice. But I think his Tiny Desk, concert that just kind of released caught a lot of people's attention in a way that if you hadn't heard him before, you're like kind of paying attention now to who is he and where's he going next. So I'm excited about that. The Fray is another kind of throwback, that we're excited about.
That's nostalgia right there.
I think we'll do really well. And then bringing back some that we've had in the past. So Mo is another kind of band that we're excited about at Holliday Park. Broad Ripple Park will be one weekend this year, and so we're really excited about that. That's in August. We're going to do country. We'll do Drive-By Truckers and Deer Tick on one night, so a double headliner that we're really excited about. And then the second night is Semisonic and Toad and the Wet Sprocket. So again, another kind of early 2000s, a bit of a throwback, but both genres we think will do really well here in Broad Ripple Park.
I was going to say that's the weekend of August 8th and August 9th.
That's
I just
right.
Looked it up.
That's
so
right.
one weekend,
yes.
one weekend and one weekend only.
That's right.
I'm like getting to my calendar right now to make sure I have this like.
We'll make sure it's on your calendar.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
August 8th, Friday, August 8th,
That's right.
Saturday, August 9th,
Yes.
Broad Ripple Park. How
Yes.
many, like, what's the size of these shows?
Yep. So we, at Holiday Park, we cap the space at 2,500. We hope to have somewhat of a similar turnout at Broad Ripple Park for both nights. I think it might be a little closer to 2,000. What I think and what I hope happens is that weekend really also activates the village itself. So one of the things we believe at 45 is that live music, again, can be an economic catalyst for not just the folks that we're employing and the people who are kind of coming through, but also for the kind of businesses and local businesses around us. So what we're kind of saying is walk, bike, and ride to Broad Ripple Park, and more importantly, walk through the village, have dinner in the village, have an after concert drink. Let's make sure that we're kind of activating so many of these local and small businesses that, bringing this neighborhood back to life in a way that I think is really important. Jump on the Monon, come on over to a show, walk back and have a drink or a dessert, and really kind of activate this village in a way that I think people are looking forward to and hopefully kind of continue to do as we're kind of bringing this back to life.
Well, if there are any Broad Ripple bars, restaurants that listen to the podcast that want to host the official pregame party,
let's do it.
Nate and the crew are in.
I love it.
I'll go. We'll find a place. We'll blow it up. It'll be super fun, and then we'll walk over to. That would be so fun.
That's the dream.
Like I do think I just had Hasbrook on.
Yeah.
I have Clayton Anderson coming on to talk about what he's putting in up here.
About it. Yes.
And it's like there is a lot of energy and life coming back towards Broad Ripple.
Yes, exactly.
And he's like, we have to continue to just chip away, hammer away, and it's gonna. I mean, it's gonna be there. And this is built to be a hub of arts and culture throughout the city of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Roots Realty Co., the absolute best real estate team here in Central Indiana. Listen, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, you need people who actually care about our Indiana community. That's Tyler and Max over at Roots Realty. These guys aren't just slinging houses, they're building communities, helping people find homes that actually fit their lives and making the whole process way less stressful. They're not some big corporate machine. They're real people who know Indiana inside and out. Whether you're a first-time buyer, an investor looking for your next deal, or just trying to get top dollar for your home, these guys have the expertise and the hustle to make it happen. They're out here doing great work, not just in Indianapolis, but all across Central Indiana and beyond. So if you're in the market, or even if you're thinking about it, hit up Tyler and Max at Roots Realty Co. and they'll take good care of you. Check them out at rootsrealty.co or meet them in person at one of their upcoming investor masterclasses. More details on their website, rootsrealty.co. Let's get back into it.
Even the few examples you just gave of how this works and will work is if we're collaborating together, right? If we're not just kind of sitting in our corners and saying, make sure that my slice or my corner of Broad Ripple is going to do really well. I think the reality is we kind of need each other in Broad Ripple to continue to bring it back, to continue to support each other. And so how are we amplifying, to your point, giving voice to other like local businesses, local folks who are kind of either starting something new or, who've been around a long time and in the grind and have seen this village change and through its ups and downs. And so how are we doing that together as opposed to kind of in our isolated corners? There's a lot of, to your point, a lot of really cool stuff happening around here.
And I mean, I will hammer in the fact of like bringing people back because it's really sad when you drive through at like 10 p.m. on a Saturday night and no one's here.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the? Like, I remember when it used to be like lines a block down the street to get into Piano Bar or get into Brothers. Anywhere. Like, I remember being a 22-year-old kid and being out here way too late, and it was awesome.
Yeah, there's a group of local bar owners, local restaurants who have continued to kind of gather monthly. We do this monthly to just kind of make sure we're all up to date, have the same information, and I think that's going to pay off. I was here on Friday night. This past Friday night was one of the first warm evenings. and it was lively. Like it felt like it was alive over on the Monon, kind of live music next to Plumps. Like there are people out and walking around, and so that's my hope, is that just sustains and continues and even bleeds itself a little bit farther into the village. And I think, live music and again, gathering people in this way, especially in the summer when you're kind of looking for something to do, my hope is that continues for the village, and ultimately it'll be good for everybody.
Is there something you see Broad Ripple missing? Like, what do we need?
Yeah.
If we could just like snap our fingers and create it.
I'm really excited about the things that are coming, because what I would have said maybe even months ago is something like a country bar, right?
The Ripple Rodeo is so good. Like
I don't know that I've heard the official name yet.
Yeah, Clay Davison's Ripple Rodeo.
Is it called Ripple Rodeo?
Oh,
love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like, again, I've like said it a lot of times. Like, once I continue to grow and like get to a spot, I want to open the Hoosier Honky Tonk.
Love it. Yes.
And it's like, then I see it in my backyard.
Yeah, you're like, here it is.
I was like, Clayton, dude, you're living my dream right now. Come on. Yeah.
So I think that's something that, again, you're just kind of building off, so many of the kind of cornerstones that we already have. Like the Vogue's already here's live music. I just mentioned how well country does. Like, how are we kind of working together to make sure that both are working well? I would argue that, Thieves is moving into the kind of Starbucks on the corner. And so that cocktail bar that right now is in a teeny little spot next to the sushi bar, Kristen's opening a bigger space that's going to be coffee during the day and cocktails at night. I think a bigger space and craft cocktails, I think, is missing in Broad Ripple. And I think that vibe will kind of bring people here, will allow you to kind of like sit, let me have a conversation and a drink, as opposed to just here to kind of late night kind of party. And I think that's missing. And I'm really excited for what she's doing. That's going to open in the next couple of months. And I think just in time for summer to have a pre-drink and kind of a slow evening.
The build out is, what is that guy's name? He was like on Good Bones or HGTV or something. Like,
I
can't think of his name off the moment. Not MJ. It's not MJ. I know MJ. It's the other. There's another guy who's like.
Okay.
So it's like going to be a luxury build out. It's going to be really, really cool.
That's exactly what I think.
Have you seen, or do you know any intel of what's going in on the corner? Like those 3 new, maybe 2 new. So Cupcake Place, and then between the Cupcake Place and the shop.
I've heard a few things. I don't know.
Just rumblings. All right, we're not going to divulge.
My hope would be that all of that's true, right? But I think respecting and knowing who and how is going to be able to make things happen, I think, is just as important as it actually happening. So we'll see that.
Will Thieves move out of that space?
I'm not for sure. My understanding is yes. That this will just kind of be a bit of a relocation.
So then
as opposed to an extension.
Someone can come in and get a start, right? Like it's
a cool space. I mean, she's like designed it so well. It's like dark and kind of like moody. It's a little small. It has a patio. We don't have a lot of patios.
My first internship was there back when it was the
fantastic.
Triton Tap.
Okay,
it was like a. So I was an intern for them.
The space then, right?
But I was unpaid intern for the intern or for the brewery.
Yes.
But then I bartended at night.
Cool.
I was like, or beer tended. It was awesome. It's a very, very intimate space.
Yeah. To answer your question, like, what are we missing? I think anywhere we can find family-friendly outdoor seating and gathering, we're going to do well, right? Like, I just think, there's, especially the main kind of strip, there's a lot of late night, there's a lot of concrete. Like, who and how are we getting creative? I love seeing Kilroy's patio open up. Like, how are we getting creative on just seating and outdoor gathering? Because I do think that's what people want, especially kind of folks who have kids or all ages, is, you want to be able to go and have an experience. You don't just want to kind of pop in and out of indoor spaces.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that more places like Cholita and the Fernando's, like places that are like, I think Mass Ave and Bottleworks District has done a really good job of like locally owned or like regionally owned concepts coming in.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, you think about Broad Ripple, that's actually kind of all we are, right? I mean, there's a handful that are probably like bigger chains, and even that, is maybe even niche chains, but you just named a few, and I think we can keep going on just the ways in which, we want to kind of return to that. How are we kind of who are we, and how are we actually like investing in our own city and our own neighborhood, and how are we actually contributing to the investment of our own city and neighborhood?
Craig Hughes is a friend of the pod. Craig, we need a 1933 in Broad Ripple, please.
Come
on, let's make that happen.
I probably have a few of them that would give you. I have a few real estate options.
Yeah, exactly. We know people. We can make that happen.
That's right.
Okay, well, so we have one weekend at Broad Ripple Park this summer. We have an amazing lineup for Rock the Ruins.
Yes.
Obviously the Vogue, Turntable, all ripping. Is there any other venues that we're missing there?
There's not, but one thing I would highlight is 45 is excited to partner with Indy Pride this year, and so we're helping them kind of both produce and execute their 2-day music festival. So they're growing their kind of festival footprint downtown, have held a leadership role in Indy Pride in the past, and was excited to step in and wear a different hat to support them this summer. And so just highlight and would shout out kind of Indy Pride, and they're doing a 2-day festival with a killer lineup. It looks and feels a lot like a bigger city Pride.
Who do we have in there?
So we have Natasha Bedingfield on Saturday. Everybody loves a little Natasha. And,
That's unwritten, right?
It's unwritten.
Staring at the blank page for you. Open up. There we go. That's going to be fire. Come on.
So that's really exciting. It's right after the parade. This year they're returning to American Legion Mall, which is, they're celebrating their 30th year as an organization. And so they'll do a celebration at the Circle and then a 2-day music festival. And then on Sunday, we'll do Tinashe and Big Wild and a couple other kind of artists that we're really excited about. So yeah, just a shout out to Indy Pride. And I think their work is more important now than ever before, especially in the state, and continues to kind of grow. And I'm excited to watch them grow this year and of course kind of play the role that we can in supporting that growth. So yeah, shout out to Pride.
And then so you have that festival,
Yes.
then you also do I Made Rock and Roll.
We do.
Is that also at
yeah.
the American Legion Mall?
It was. Last summer was at the American Legion Mall. That was Gary Clark Jr. We had Janelle Monáe. It was a killer festival, beautiful, beautiful space, beautiful day. This year we're kind of extending that. So we do that in partnership with Gang Gang. They're kind of the artistic and creative direction. And we have been a festival partner for them and more specifically kind of the ways in which, how are they pairing kind of the story and the truth of genre of rock and roll and how kind of its roots and origins come from African American artists throughout the year. And so really kind of what are the shows that we're doing this year, indoors and outdoors, that we can kind of continue to tell the story of I Made Rock and Roll. So we're really expanding that kind of storytelling, both regionally and I would say in the state, and then certainly coming back at a bigger and better way in the summer of 26 with the festival.
Oh boy.
Be exciting.
Well, if there's ever a space for the Hoosier Honky Tonk Country Festival,
I got you.
Oh, I think there might be some synergies there.
We could do a 1 or 2 day.
Oh,
yes.
like a
Yes.
one night Saturday,
Yes.
Saturday from let's say 2 p.m. to
Yes.
9 p.m.
Exactly.
somewhere,
Yeah.
10 p.m. That would be
Exactly.
lit.
Exactly.
I would go crazy and I would promote the heck out of that, and we could
I
sell
love
some
it.
tickets.
I love it. Well, my Texan heart is with you in that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I did want to talk through just a few of general music in Indiana,
Yeah,
right?
let's
So
do it.
obviously we know your guys' venues, Turntable,
Yep.
the Vogue,
Yep.
all the outdoor stuff. But as you are, obviously you're a concert consumer. You're a
Yes,
live music
I am.
consumer.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite spots around the state to hit up? And
Yeah.
are there any spots that should be on people's bucket list that might not be?
Yeah. I mean, I would continue to urge folks and encourage folks, especially kind of on the southeast side, to keep an eye on MOKB. So you're looking at maybe the last year of Hi-Fi Annex, which is an outdoor kind of outdoor venue, 1,000, 1,200 cap.
Wait, it's the
space.
last year of that?
Well, they're moving indoors, so they're building Hi-Fi Annex, and a couple of years that'll actually be indoors. So it'll be the same size kind of space, but it'll go indoors. They're good friends of ours, friendly competitors. But I would say again, in the business of making sure that Indiana folks are doing well, I'm excited to kind of watch that grow and evolve. as a
That kind of
company.
makes me sad that it's going to go indoors because that's a
There's
really
some
good.
feelings around it.
That's a really good venue.
Yeah, there's some feelings around it for sure. So I think my indie and friendly competitor heart would just say kind of keep an eye for folks on what they're doing. I think they're doing some really cool stuff. Yeah, I mean I think you're seeing a lot of interesting outdoor amphitheaters pop up. So the Fishers amphitheater I think is continuing to roll out a really good lineup this summer, and that feels really exciting and not far in proximity to us. Really cool stuff happening in Brown County. I think the Brown County Event Center is doing really cool things, although indoor. And they're trying to kind of revive again a historic kind of space that's been around a long that
I just saw Brown County is bringing ZZ Top in. That's
they're doing some
so
cool
sick.
stuff. Yeah.
That's so cool.
And it's such a cool, that town itself draws, so many folks from around the state that I think, folks who are looking for live music, it's another good spot. Brown County Playhouse is another one when I'm thinking about Brown County right now. They're a small kind of independent, they're actually a nonprofit and they do live music and other events. And so a seated theater that we've gotten to know them really well, just as another kind of local small venue operator. And so paying attention to them, I think feels really good if you're going south. And then I think Fishers is doing really cool things. I think, we're excited to kind of watch some of this stuff happen in the kind of donut counties and kind of continue to see.
Have you been to Hendricks County Live?
Yeah, Hendricks Live is
Hendricks
really cool.
Live,
It's a
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful space in Plainfield. They've become good friends of ours as well. I think they're doing really cool things. They're a seated theater, so they bring a different kind of genre, a different kind of artist. But their lineup has done really well. I think they're a really interesting model in how the role of a city and kind of as a community cornerstone that a theater can be for the arts and culture. They have a really interesting story of kind of how they were funded and built, and so they're kind of fun to follow along. And if you get to go there, you'll just be in awe of the space. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful space itself. It just you don't see often.
The seated theater, I went and toured Cluse
Yeah,
at
yeah,
Butler.
yeah.
And they get some insane
Yeah.
comedians
Really good friends,
and just performances that come through there. And
Yeah.
it's It's right in our backyard, and I
right in our
like never
backyard.
even thought of it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, it's just like a theater at Butler.
Yeah.
No, they're a legit. Like they're bringing in really, really cool artists.
Yeah, they are. They have a team that has worked really hard at kind of figuring out how do we do it on our own, and also in a way that, again, is kind of bringing artists, comedians, events generally that like people in the city and quite frankly, folks in that neighborhood really want to hear and see. And they've done a really good job over the years in doing that. So it's also a beautiful space.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
you're right.
well, I know that Ashley and Britt like are on the Crime Junkies tour, and it's like
Yes.
that kind of thing
Yes.
too comes through. Like
Yes.
the live podcast
Yes.
performance
Yes.
comes through Clues, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Like I don't know, a decade ago, it was like if you weren't a musician.
Yeah.
Or maybe a stand-up comic.
You didn't have a stage.
You probably
Where
didn't
were
have
you
a stage. Now it's like recording live podcasts and
Come on, you could do it. You could do it at Turntable. We could do it.
We could do one at Turntable.
We did. It was interesting. It's been really fun to play around with that at Turntable, but also at the Vogue last year during All-Star Weekend, we did the Woj podcast for ESPN live. So that was amazing. And so
I don't know if we're not on that level yet.
Grant Hill, was sitting on stage with us, with Tyrese Halliburton, and that was a cool. It was a good spark to your imagination of like what could be. Like how can you use these spaces to kind of continue to amplify and to bring people together in an interesting way. We did the documentary of Little Richard last year for I Made Rock and Roll, and had the director come in and did kind of a panel afterwards. We watched the film in the venue, and then we kind of had a question and answer with the director of the Little Richard documentary, and that was well attended and exciting. People just wanted to, again, where are you learning? What are you listening to? What are you thinking about? What kind of conversations are you having? It doesn't just have to be live music, and I think that's really exciting to think about the opportunities.
I mean, we land like one of the big three Indiana podcasts. We'll come do it at live. Like Caitlin Clark, if you're listening and you want to do the pod, we'll come do it.
It's WNBA All-Star this year. Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's do it.
I was like, Caitlin Clark, Peyton Manning, or Pat McAfee. Either
Let's
three of
do it.
those want to
Let's
come
do
and
it.
do a pod. We'll do a live
love it.
recording. It'd be
I love
sick.
it. I love it.
Well, you're talking about all these new venues from Hendricks County down to Brown County up to Fishers.
Yeah.
If you could put a venue anywhere in the state of Indiana, where would you put it?
Broderville Park.
Like a full permanent venue?
Yeah,
It'd
would
be
love
so
it.
sick.
Yeah, I mean, I say that because I think there's we are highly and deeply invested in Broderville Park. In Broderville, 45 is not going anywhere. The Vogue's not going anywhere. I mean, again, I spoke earlier about just the ways in which how do you bring live music back to this neighborhood, and quite frankly, I think. A live music venue that can also be extended to kind of just there's mutual and kind of benefits for Indy Parks and quite frankly the entire community. It's an athletic field, right? It's an
Is that where
event
it's going?
space. It could be. The master plan shows it there right now. We're eager to watch that evolve and who kind of wants to step in and how does that look like. I think we're following along really carefully. But it could be your athletic field. It could be where you have fundraisers. It could be where you put your farmers market. It could be just the endless possibilities of having a space like that can be flexible and have world class talent. For ticketed events is just would be a dream right there on the river.
In the master, it is really cool back
really
there.
pretty.
In the master plan, is it an outdoor like amphitheater?
It is, yeah. It is. So there's a permanent venue in the master plan. They went through quite a intense community engagement process to make sure that kind of it both met the needs and also kind of addressed some concerns. And I think there's an interest to kind of revisit that plan and see if it still makes sense, which is partly why we're kind of helping pilot a couple shows there right now. My feeling generally, or maybe even a broader theme and less specific, is I feel really strongly about having an outdoor option for families who want to bring their entire family to a show and don't have to drive 20, 30 minutes, don't have to find, parking and walk for ages, don't have to, fight big crowds. But how are you actually accessing world-class talent and listening to world-class musicians like a Stephen Wilson Jr. or like an El King or like a Charlie Crockett and Orville Peck without having to leave your backyard? Right? Like, I mean, how do we keep the folks in the city core and keep them spending their money here and quite frankly, continue to make us as a city, a destination spot and a spot for tours that want to stop through on their way across the country.
So when you guys do your show, how are you going to set up? Like, where's the stage going to be? Do you know?
So we'll share more as we get closer to. It's going to look a little different than the master plan, partly because we want to respect and kind of preserve as much as we can. We're doing a temporary structure, right? So anything permanent would require quite a bit more infrastructure investment, obviously, to make sure that semis get through there, that we can kind of, without disrupting the park and kind of moving too many things around. So we'll, right now we're thinking about the stage kind of on the northeast corner of the athletic field. So kind of there. The sound would shoot kind of opposite of the neighborhood, back out towards further the avenue.
Northeast corner.
Yeah.
So then
Coming off of
the river would be your
Evanston,
back.
The river, if I'm watching the show, the river's to my back. That's right, for this year.
That's probably good.
Yeah.
Even
a little bit of rain, that field will be torn up.
A guy went out and ran the trail this morning, and
it's a little bit muddy.
But you sometimes just roll the dice. The old fingers crossed approach.
So. Yeah, there's a cool history there, right? That's the pool. That's that field is exactly where the pool is, and there's probably still remnants underneath.
There is. You can see it.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of things underground that we're curious about, but certainly didn't want to kind of do one weekend and have a little bit of rain and destroy the whole field, and so we're trying to preserve and be thoughtful about that in the ways that we can.
Yeah. When I'm looking at them, I would encourage anyone out there listening to go look at the master plan. I have it kind of pulled up here, and it's like, this is crazy.
Cool. It's cool. Very cool.
I think that there's a ton of cool stuff that could come to life in the neighborhood. So I love that. I think that would be a really, really cool spot to have a permanent venue and help continue to bring live music to Broad Ripple.
Yeah.
I think I have a few more fun questions, and then I have my usual 3 lightning rounds. Okay. So what's your dream artist to host at the Vogue?
My younger self is going to say Patty Griffin, she's a folk indie artist who I grew up listening to in Texas. She lives in Austin now. She is like my musical muse in some ways. But yeah, I think right now I'm listening to a lot of country too. And so how are we thinking about, what are those big rising stars? I loved Orville Peck last year. I think his following and the people he brought out and sold a show out was incredible. And I would love to have him back in a smaller and more intimate space. He brought a couple artists along that on his tour that was really excited to hear. Duran Jones was one who's kind of a soul, a black indie artist that loved him. And I think that, that kind of duo on stage would be amazing, just at least from a representative perspective.
How do we get
really great.
Chapel Roan at Rock the Room? Are we too late on that one?
We're a little too late.
Where would she play? She came to Indy. Where would she play now?
I'm speechless because I actually don't know that anywhere could accommodate her. I mean, she is somebody who is a phenomenon that I can't help but follow.
So bigger than Ruoff at this point?
Yes. I mean, yes. So she played. We sent a couple of folks to Austin City Limits this past summer just to kind of do a little research and development for our outdoor space. Anyway, Austin City Limits is huge. 300,000 people a day. 6 stages. Somebody should just go Google or TikTok her set at Austin City Limits because nobody was watching any other stage. It was a sea of pink. I think it was 180,000 people watching her. And you certainly couldn't hear her when you were at the back, but it was a phenomenon that I've never seen before. Fun story. We actually, so I mentioned I'd done Indy Pride in the past. We had kind of caught wind of Chapel Roan 2 years ago. And we thought, well, let's try to bring her. Like, she seems like she's going to get pretty big. Pink Pony Club, we were like, this is weird, but it's a great song. This was years ago, right? We missed out because she had already booked Louisville Pride. She was a similar one that, so there's a radius clause, right? She couldn't play within a certain radius within a time frame. Well, ours is the weekend before. Long story short, she kind of goes viral a little bit. Louisville Pride sells out, number one. I have quite a few friends that go, and she's, this is after she's just played in, maybe even Lollapalooza, which she was, of course, playing in front of 200,000 people there too. She's playing on this teeny tiny stage, like, smaller than when we have at Rock the Ruins, even maybe two sizes down. If you look behind the video that I see is Louisville Pride is sold out, number one, and the bridges have been shut down above where they they have the festival on the waterfront. The bridges are shut down because people are there. They've closed the bridges down for people to have a free show. Neon lights, fireworks, just the people who came that didn't buy a ticket to watch Chapel Roan last summer were probably 50,000 people for Louisville Pride. So she's just this phenomenon. If you aren't paying attention to Chapel Roan, you missed it, or now's the time.
I love that you keep saying phenomenon. It's like she's a phenomenon. That was a pull from my bag right there.
I like it.
Okay, that's a fun one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like first one to move, right?
Yes.
It's like, dang, that could have been us.
It could have been us.
It could have been us.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, my others, I loved Gary Clark Jr. at I Made Rock and Roll last year. I mean, I was a fan before. I'm even more of a fan now. He's such a true artist. He's, he brought his family. So I think it'd be so fun to see someone like Gary Clark Jr. who still is playing in these huge tours, but watch him at the Vogue would be so fun, and just to be able to, feels like such family now that it would be fun to watch him back in that space.
What artist loves Indiana that you wouldn't expect?
We have quite a few tours that we've mentioned, a couple that have kind of continued to come back both through our venues or just generally. I mean, I think generally for tours, Indianapolis is the spot. I think what I would feel is if we lose a show, they're going to Cincinnati or Louisville, right? And quite frankly, when I talk about the ecosystem or the landscape of venues, what's good for all of us is good for, what's good for a few of us is good for all of us. In other words, as a city, kind of a portfolio of venues that you could play at 2,500 all the way up to 10,000, up to 25,000, that's good, right? Because then tours aren't going to pass us by, right? They're not going to be able to say, oh, we can skip and go to Louisville or Cincinnati. You have a room here, you could play. There's just this there's a pattern to the business of music, which is that as tours continue to grow, you want them to keep coming back. And as a city, we want them to keep coming back.
So what would the 5 steps of, let's say a 5-year musician keeps growing every year. What would the 5 steps of
Mount Joy as an example, right? So years ago, Mount Joy would have played, you could even use Billy Strings because they just, we just did a throwback of maybe 5 years ago. It wasn't that long ago that he sold out at the Vogue. So you think about where Billy Strings would have been playing before the Vogue. He opened, that's what it was. He was opening for somebody at the Vogue 5 years ago as an opener. So he would have gone to a small venue like a turntable, sold that out.
Which is
the
200.
Next year, let's call it 400K.
Yeah.
You go the next year to go up to 950. For us, if we're using the portfolio of 45, you then go to Rock the Ruins. After that, you might go to Everwise, right? Because you just keep stair-stepping up. After Everwise, you might go to Fisher's, it's a little bit bigger, and then you'd end up at Ruhoff. So there is this stair
And then you end up
step.
at Lucas Oil.
And then you end up at Lucas Oil, you end up at, Gamebridge, any of these huge kind of stadiums. So the idea that it's good for us as a city to have a thriving venue ecosystem is good for Live Nation, but it's also good for all of our, small independent promoters because artists are going to want to come back because they have a room to play in. It's familiar space. They know that Indianapolis, and Hoosiers are going to buy tickets.
Is there a space that we're missing, like in that ladder?
Yeah, quite frankly, that kind of Hi-Fi Annex I mentioned is about 1,200 outdoor, and we at Rock the Ruins are about 2,500. That is a niche right now. If those two go away, we don't have a room outdoors for that size. So Everwise, goes up to about 6,000, but they don't scale down in that way. The economics just don't make a lot of sense. So how are we kind of continuing this part of our investment of how are we saying 1,500 to 4,000 cap? We have to solve for that as a city, and I think that's something that 45 is willing to take on.
Everwise is a actually really spectacular venue.
Beautiful.
3 years ago now, I saw Zach Bryan for $35.
Amazing.
And it was sold out. And it was I bought the tickets and he blew up.
Yeah.
And it was my ears were ringing because everyone knew the words.
Everybody.
And it was shoulder to shoulder, Sardi. And I was that was actually my favorite concert ever.
Yeah.
I've had great times at all the Vogue. And
I've seen it. It's an amazing show. It's an amazing show.
So I actually went out and saw, so I started at that one.
Okay.
And then I went to Wichita and saw him. And then I went to Chicago. So bigger.
Yes.
My favorite one is still the first one because it was
one.
so small. And and now he's coming to Notre Dame.
That's a huge stadium. You can't get bigger than that, quite frankly.
No, I think that might be in Indiana, the largest. I don't know. I don't know if we say what they sell for concerts at Lucas Oil is not the same as what they'll sell for that. I
don't think so.
Garth Brooks played up there and it was huge. That's where I'm from, up in that area.
Okay,
so all
fantastic.
my hometown friends are so excited for that.
Well, you mentioned Garth Brooks too. Now I'm rethinking all my answers because he would be somebody I'd bring to the Vogue for sure. Could you imagine?
A small venue,
Could you imagine?
Garth Brooks concert.
Can we have a Trisha Yearwood There's one. One song of a duet at the Vogue. It'd be so good.
I love it. Okay, we have 3 questions left.
Okay.
The first one's our Younger Years segment. This is brought to you by our friends at Orr Fellowship. They're a great organization here in Indiana, helping develop young business leaders across the state. Jenny, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
It will pay off on how you treat people. The ways in which I've attempted to kind of center relationships in people has been really both challenging and also really rewarding. And so I would say 22-year-old self, be kind. You don't have to always be nice, but you can always be kind, and how you treat people really matters, and it'll pay off in the end. That's what I would say.
Spectacular advice. Next, we're speaking to the world. Okay. What's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
We have good people who will take care of each other.
And you're not from here, right? You're from Fort Worth.
No, I'm from Texas.
Spent time in Denver,
Colorado, and Chicago. And I would say, there's a reason I came back. And quite frankly, it's for the people. Committed, loyal, and quite frankly, the most hospitable people that I have ever met and worked with. And so we have good people and good live music.
Hoosier by choice.
By choice.
Hoosier by choice. That's the best. Those are my
Not by
favorite.
chance, yeah.
I love any type of time I get a guest who's been around and but chooses to be here.
Yeah.
Because when we say I'm a lifelong Hoosier, so when I say the people here are so special,
Yes.
they're like, you've never left, you don't know anything, but you have left.
Yeah,
You've
I
been
have.
out there.
Yeah.
You know what the world looks like.
I have. Yeah, I would say that I ended up here. I played softball at IUPUI, and so I don't know.
R.I.P..
I don't know. Right. Yes. I don't know that it was by choice. My 19, 20-year-old self then, but it took a year, and then there's just no leaving. I left for a little while, and then of course there was a pull back to say this is home. This is where I'm going to build home.
Next, help us uncover something new about the state. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
Yeah, I'm going to say turntable.
Bang.
We're less than, I think we're certainly less than a year. We're maybe 8 months old now. We're intentionally a bit of a speakeasy music venue. We're not there is no signage. You won't see it from the street. The idea is that it's supposed to be a little hidden. It's supposed to be a little exclusive. It's supposed to feel very intimate. And when you walk in, you're going to feel like you are in a different city, a different state, a different world, and that's the intent. And my hope is that you find you either listen to your favorite artists there, you sought them out, or you hear them for the first time there. And my belief is that that can happen at Turntable for sure.
At Turntable,
Yes.
keep an eye out.
Yeah.
We're going to be there. So my intro and outro music are from Gregorian,
Love it.
who are
Love
playing
it.
a show at Turntable
So
later
good.
this summer/fall.
So good.
So be there.
Keep
That's
an eye on the calendar.
Yeah, it'll be
Yes,
fun.
it'll
We're
be
gonna
so
have
good.
we're gonna have a great time. Final question for you. Share the love. This is how we find maybe new guests or people this week that we need to know about in Indiana. Who is a Hoosier we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
Kind of the entire Indy Pride team not only is now an important kind of time to be doing the work they're doing for LGBTQ Hoosiers, but I also just think, this is a historic organization that's had, volunteers kind of lead and bring together folks to kind of create joy every summer for folks, for this entire city and quite frankly, the entire state. And so just continue to shout them out and pay attention to what they're doing and how they're growing and support them in the ways that you can.
Amazing. Great call out.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in and catching us up to speed on all the amazing live music initiatives that are happening across the state.
Yeah.
From, the shows you're hosting at Turntable, the Vogue,
Yes.
Rock the Ruins, or what are we calling the Broadrupple?
Broadrupple Park.
But the-
Called a Broadrupple Park series.
Broadrupple Park
That's
series.
right. Yeah.
One weekend and one weekend,
One weekend
only.
only.
August 8th, August 9th. Be there
Yes.
at Broadrupple Park in the
Yes.
neighborhood. If there is a local bar, restaurant that wants to host the official pregame party, I'm in.
Let's do it.
We'll make it something that's super, super fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for the work you're doing. I mean, I always love coming out to your shows. I love seeing all the work
Good.
that you guys are doing. It is very impactful. It takes a while.
Yeah.
It's a slow build.
Yes.
But the work that you're doing is super impactful of bringing arts, culture, music to Broadrupple and Indiana as a whole. So from one Hoosier to another, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm excited. We'll check in after the summer concert series and get the recap. And obviously by that point, the Parks Department will be like, we're all in, live venue. Let's
do
build
it.
this thing.
Yes,
Let's
yes,
go.
yes,
Well, I
yes,
appreciate
yes.
you. Thanks for
Yes.
stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.